Flat Stanley Goes Camping.
This wonderful story is brought to you by Grandma Devery.
Flat Stanley Goes Camping.
Whoop, 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 whee!
Stanley Lambchop lived with his mother, his father, and his little brother Arthur.
Everybody say hi to Dad, Mom, and Arthur. Hi, Arthur.
Stanley was 4 feet tall and about a foot wide, and then half an inch thick. He had been flat ever since a bulletin board fell upon him.
Ah! I'm flat like Stanley!
There were lots of good things about being flat. Stanley could put on sunscreen in one swipe. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Hey, that's not fair, Flat Stanley.
Stanley was the best back float at the pool.
I swim like a fish. Bloop, 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 bloop.
He had the loudest belly flop too.
Cannonball!
Sometimes it's hard being the only flat kid in town.
Hey, look at a skinny kid over there.
I'm sick of being flat, said Stanley one morning. Flat is lame. Lame, said Mrs. Lambchop. Why, some of the best things in the world are flat.
Yeah, like the newspaper, said Mr. Lambchop. And fried eggs and pancakes and bacon, said Arthur.
Well, I guess so, said Stanley. After breakfast, Mr. Lambchop started loading up the car with tents and sleeping bags. What's going on? Asked Arthur. We're going camping, said Mrs. Lambchop. This family needs some fresh air. All right, yelled Arthur. Yippee, yippee, yippee!
Yeah, whatever, man.
After a short drive, the Lambchops arrived at the Roaring River campground. Stanley was helpful as usual as he carried firewood.
Hi-ho, it's off to work I go. Hi-ho, 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 hi-ho. I'm only good for carrying firewood.
Stanley blocked the wind so his mother could start a fire. But Stanley wasn't himself. He wouldn't even eat any s'mores. Too flat, he muttered.
Why don't you two go exploring, suggested Mr. Lambchop.
Good idea, said Mrs. Lambchop. Just don't get lost, or fall off a cliff, or touch any poison ivy. Have fun, dears. So Stanley and Arthur set out on their great adventure.
Hey, animal tracks! Yeah, let's follow them!
The boys followed the tracks along the river, up the steep hill, and to the side of a cliff.
The tracks end here!
Flat Stanley peers over the cliff.
I wonder what kind of animal made them. Arthur? Skunk. Let's get out of here!
But the boys were trapped. Skunk on one side, cliff on the other. Then the skunk raised its tail. Smelly skunk, what do we do?
Mom said not to fall off a cliff. She didn't say not to jump.
Finally, Stanley grabbed Arthur by both hands.
Ah!
Then Arthur opened his eyes. He wasn't falling, he was sailing.
Above him, Stanley's body made a perfect parachute. The boys landed with a gentle plop. That was awesome!
Thanks, said Stanley.
Now where are we?
Arthur and Stanley looked around. All they saw were trees.
We're lost,
said Arthur.
It's getting dark.
Then Stanley spotted something.
There's the river. Our campground is on the river.
Down the river, on the river's edge, were 2 cozy tents.
What can we do? It will be dark before we can walk that far.
I know, said Arthur. I have an idea.
Stanley got a running start and belly flopped into the river.
Splash!
Then he flipped over onto his back. Climb on! Yee-haws! Cried Arthur. I always wanted to go rafting.
Woo! Woo! Arthur and Stanley made it back to camp drippy and wet, but safe.
Let's keep this to ourselves. I can't believe we got lost. Yeah, at least we didn't touch poison ivy.
Or fall off a cliff. Oh, there you are, said Mrs. Lambchop. Just in time for dinner.
Are we having pork chops again? You know, Stanley, if you weren't flat, you couldn't have saved us today.
Maybe being flat isn't so lame after all.
And the next day, Stanley found out another good thing about being flat.
He could put poison ivy cream on in one swipe.
Hey, that's not fair.
Stanley found out a lot of things that he could do because he was flat.
I'm amazing.